All
You've
right,
seen
good
a red
evening.
light.
Welcome to 71 of. My name is Elton Davids. I'll be the host, and we'll have conversations with esteemed folk in sport like Charlotte Scholtz, Nicolette Morrison-Hagen, Mr. Martin Droskie, Mr. Craig February. People who have a long history in sport. We're going to be asking them lots of questions. You're welcome to ask them lots of questions and tell us what your thoughts are on some of the matters that they raise. So, without much ado, Nicolette, I'm going to hand over to you because you've been the chosen one from the group to be the first person to introduce yourself. So, over to you.
Okay. Okay, I'm Nicolette. I'm into martial arts. I started, sure, when did I start? I started when I was like 5 years old with judo. And then I went on till about high school and then I stopped for a bit. And then I thought, well, let me start doing something again. I'm getting older, I'm getting unfit, I need to do something. So then I started doing kickboxing and then I started doing a little bit of
Mm.
jiu-jitsu. And then I thought, okay, fine, let me try karate. So I did all of those things together. And then I figured out karate is the thing for me. So I've been doing karate since, sure, 2014 and got my black belts in it and just going stronger and stronger. And then a few years ago, we decided to let's just open a dojo and see where this thing is going. Can we get some kids in the dojo? Can we get them off the street? Can we just teach what we know and see if this goes any further? And yeah, we've been growing. It's been going strong. And I'm glad I started the call it martial art career. It's a lot better than my day job, which is being a financial manager. So yeah, I enjoy martial arts more, and I enjoy working with the kids more than doing someone else's books. Yeah, so that's basically in a nutshell me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nicolette, and
Yes.
it's interesting that you raise you compare the two because on the one end you have almost an inanimate object working versus working with real people and getting feedback almost on a minute by minute basis. Do you find that
Yes.
that has a significant way in the way that you approach your day every day? Is there a difference, like going to the dojo versus going to your office?
Well, I'm definitely more excited going to the dojo because there you can play with the kids and teach them and
Mm,
you know what I really love about them is that you can eventually see where how they've grown and how they've just become like a better little human being. So that
mm,
for me is a bit of more highlight and a better thing to do than, you know, yes, okay, at the end of the month, you can say you've completed the month's work and you can do this and that. And you get a little bit of a satisfaction. But for me personally, the satisfaction is not the same as, you know, working with all these little, I call them monkeys, um, because they run around and jump around like little monkeys in that dojo. But yes, so it's a bit more of a little satisfaction. Although they've given me some grey hairs, but it's still fun. If I must choose one, I think the obvious choice will be very easy for me. Yeah.
So,
Are you hanging?
someone's already given us a message. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So Nicolette, your ex chairperson, Mr. Albert Murray says, "Hi guys, is a great servant of the sport." So he's tuned in on LinkedIn and he's already made a comment. So
Ah, I told him to
the
tune in. That's good.
next person is the next person who's now got a bit of line under is Charlotte Scholtz, who for the 2023 netball. Charlotte, how do you find the time to manage all of these things? Good evening.
Good evening. Yeah, so I've been involved in netball my whole life as well. I didn't start at 5, no, but I did play netball at a school level. I did play a little bit at varsity level, and then after varsity, with all my studies and stuff that I did, I play. So I've been a player, I've been a coach, I've been a manager, been an umpire, and now I'm focused more on the technical side of the business. And I've been an administrator in the sport as well for years. So yeah, I've done the netball thing quite extensively. I've been privileged to be appointed as the technical delegate for the Netball World Cup through World Netball. So I've got more of an oversight role than a actual LOC role, Elton, which which I think at times is both a blessing and a curse, because I'm a doer more than I'm a sit back and watch type of person, as you can hear. So
Yeah.
so it's been a fantastic learning curve, I must say. It's changed my attitude towards the sport from a more critical perspective, and netball has been an amateur sport for most of its existence in South Africa specifically. And so there is a bit of a drive to try and make it professional. So there's some things that we're going to need to put in place to make sure that it becomes professional on all levels, not just from a player perspective. Yeah, so it is great watching the evolution of the sport, but it comes with its challenges. Yeah. Oh, and time is fluent. Eh?
Definitely.
The more you've got to do, the more you get to do, sir.
You know what to say. If you want to do something, give it to a busy person. It will get done.
True.
I agree.
And there's nobody who I think is more busy than Martin. Martin as a very successful business, and yet he still has time to go and ride a small little 200cc motorbike, Martin. As it waar of on as a klein fietsie or a groot fietsie, because he's now upgraded and grown up from riding a bicycle to riding a motorbike.
Yeah, Elton, you've got to make time for your own outlets. So yeah, I've just returned from the Roof of Africa, which was a goal that I set for myself a couple of years ago. But I actually got involved into sport and motorsport as a primary school child. My dad used to race Kailami and motor cars. And then when we were about 10 years old, about what they call it these days, grade 5, we got involved in motorcycle racing. I was fortunate enough to be involved in motorcycle racing until I was in standard 9, grade 11. And then it just became too expensive for him, and I switched over to cycling due to the influence of a friend's father. That was a marathon runner that started having knee issues and started cycling to protect his knees again. So we got involved in cycling, and I started cycling very seriously through the military. And as I went into varsity, I eventually won a couple of big races as an amateur. And then, varsity takes preference. So got involved and I was fortunate enough to study BCom sport management, which was right down, the alley of sport and fitness. And got involved in outdoor adventure, rock climbing, abseiling, whitewater kayaking, that kind of nonsense. And then after varsity, I actually joined the Health and Racket Club, which is now Virgin Active, and was in the health and fitness industry for many years before I moved down to Cape Town. And in Cape Town, because of the then August Cycle Tour, which is now the Cape Town Cycle Tour, got involved in cycling again, and found myself getting involved with sportswear, sports clothing, selling cycle wear. And 10 years ago, I opened my own business, started my own brand, and that's still going strong. And of course, as you've mentioned, I've returned back to my roots, and now I'm riding motorcycles again. So yeah, it's a bit of a turn of the wheel, but here I am again.
Martin, I mean, it's literally been a full circle for you from a participation perspective, and yet you're still passionate in sport from a business perspective. If I look at when you and I met in the early 2000s to where you are now, still passionate about making sure that athlete is taken care of, and for me that is what sums you up, and what makes your business successful, is that you're able to still be able to deliver, even at a short space of time. And you and I have had a couple of short moments where we needed to deliver a range of kit at short notice, and you deliver, because that's like I said to Charlotte, you're going to give something you need something done, give it to a busy person, they'll make sure it gets done. Is that something that sport has taught you, or where did that ethos come about?
Elton, it's all about relationship for me. It's our relationship with the people that we deal with that determines just the way that we do things. And in our business, people are our lifeline. And for us, it's very important to ensure that people are happy. They need to look good. They need to feel good. And in the business of sportswear, what we found very interesting is that people are very passionate when they come to us about what they want to create. And do you know what a pleasure it is to be able to work with people that are extremely excited about what they are going to create in terms of what they're going to wear, and that's already just such a positive vibe. And I think that for us is already just a very positive environment to be able to operate in, and it's also just a great consolation to be able to deliver on something like that, and just see them be happy and look good. So very much so.
Definitely. And someone who I don't think has any of your clothing yet, Martin. So that's I'm quite shocked when he introduced himself to you. So clearly he doesn't know that you make cycling gear. So someone I know for probably most of our lives, Mr. February, seeing as we went to the same primary school where we both had hair and a range of other things, and now still connected through sport. Tell us a little bit about your sporting journey, Mr. Feb.
Thanks, Elton. My journey is actually a very interesting story. I played the conventional sports at school, like soccer and a little bit of tennis. And I never could progress in running terms out of the houses. I don't know how many of you can remember the blue house and the red house and the green house. So I never made school colors. And my running journey started when I started my apprenticeship in 1985, 86 through frustration. One night came home and I was very upset. And I ended up running up Thornton Road, up to the top of Kromboom Road. And I found out that I actually enjoyed this. And then by chance, when I stopped at the corner of Mulder and Kromboom Road, I asked the guy, "Don't you know of a running club in the area?" And he said, "Yes, there in Claremont, there's a club called Villages. And they've got a running club called Celtic Harriers." And my thought around that was, but I asked the guy at the time, but if you don't go to the club, can you still run in club colors, knowing that when you played soccer on club level, that if you didn't pitch for practice, you'd be on the reserve bench over the weekend? So he said, no, you're running. If you train at the club, it's fine. Or if you run on your own, it's also fine. You get a license for the year. And like they say, it's history. And it became part of my life. 36 years later, I'm still running a little bit. For 20 years, I've been cycling. And it's the joy of the sport has been that I've seen places that I would never have seen in my lifetime. It's taken me around the country. It's taken me overseas. It's put me into Springbok colors, into world champs in my age category, duathlon. And I've had the privilege of forming friendships that have lasted me a lifetime. And like Charlotte, I've been an athlete, and I've served on various committees, and I've served the sport. And about 7 years ago, I'm a level 1 road running referee as well. I saw a gap in the market for safety of runners. So I started a group called Lead Cyclists, and basically what we do, when there's a race, we look after the first 3 men and the first 3 women of a road racer, so on our bicycles. And at the moment, that's the way my fitness level is kept intact to a certain degree. But yeah, wearing Springbok colors, possibly the highlight of the 36 years of running, going to World Champs in Canada, and then many, many marathons under the belt and other distances.
Craig, it's interesting that you say you came home from work one day and you decided to start running. Let me just put it in context. Craig lives in Thornton Road, Athlone, where the Trojan horse happened. You know, where the police jumped out and out of barrels and shot people. So Craig, maybe what was one of those times not when the police were you at that point, or was that not their reason?
No, that was we were indoors when that happened, but it was shortly after that actually, because at the time I was doing my second year in Standard 9 at Spesbona, and my dad approached me and said, "Listen, you're going to go through a second year of school because of the riots and the struggle. Wouldn't you like to get a qualification behind your name?" And that's when I started my apprenticeship. And the tough part of that, the following year, was that I worked and studied at Alexander Sinton for 1 year to complete my matric. And that was the frustration of studying and working and coming home. And the running became besides the physical benefit, became my mental space of putting things into perspective. And yeah, like I said, it's taken me to places and allowed me to meet people and form friendships that are still bonded today. Because as you would know in your various disciplines that you've played and are still involved in, sport is a one thing that bonds people together. It just brings people together, even whether it's a team sport or individual sport. But you've got a common goal. No, when we line up on, and Martin will know, and Charlotte and Nicole, when you get onto the mat or you line up for your race, wherever you're from, whoever you are, that playing field becomes a level playing field. You don't look at the person for who they are. You see them as a fellow athlete, and you've all got one common goal, and that's to finish your race or to achieve your battle in karate or whatever. And that's what makes it, or what makes sport so unifying or challenging. Yeah. So it's still very, very much part of my life, even though I've got a family. But yeah, it's given me wonderful memories and goals and achievements. Had it not been for the running or the cycling, I've seen dorpies in our country that would have still remained on the map had it not been for weekends away with running mates or to a race, to races around the country.
Definitely, and if I look at all of you, including myself, we've all used or been blessed by having sport taking us across the country, across the world. All of us have traveled as a result of sport. It's been, and most of the time, some of it, in Nicolette's case, in Charlotte's case, your case, Craig, Martin, even my own, some of it we've had to pay for, and some of it we were blessed as a result of being a representative for a range of different components, you know. So sport definitely opens doors and it bridges gaps between communities and people. So if you've just joined in, good evening, welcome. I see that Mr. Albert Marais says that netball is a great example of visionary leadership. Cecilia says good evening. Renee says good evening. Renee Burton, Nicolette, and then
yes.
You're welcome to ask questions, whether on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. Pop your questions in the bottom, and definitely we will be able to pick it up and ask these guests the question. So now that we understand a little bit of who each of these people are, I'm gonna ask you this question, each one of the four of you, and let's start with Charlotte this time. So Charlotte, that you have some light. Let's shed some light on the matter. How has
Okay.
I'm trying to find the right word to describe this. Okay, so how has sport impacted your life? You've had a challenge, so a high and a low moment, and how has sport helped you to deal with it? Not necessarily in a sporting space. I mean, if I look at if I look at your day job, and I look at some of the face, how has sport, the principal sport, okay, helped you in negative parts of what you have to do, or the principles around it, and some of the positives, which could be sport related, it could be as a result of sport. We'll go Charlotte, Martin, and then Nicolette.
Yeah, I think sport teaches you to be a problem solver to a certain extent. Because if you, especially if you're in a team sport, because I mean, you don't always know how everybody's going to get there. Hey? If you're an individual sports person, you've got the perk. The only person you've got to deal with is yourself. And you need to just manage that particular emotional radar. Yeah. But if you're in a team sport, you know, sometimes it's not just pitching for the training, but it's also trying to pitch there and then trying to figure out how to navigate all those emotions, because everybody comes there at the end of the day, most of the times, because netball is not a professional sport yet, come there at the end of the day with all the dramas. Like you said, Craig, you went running because you had a tough day at the office, you know, so, but people come to the netball court for the same thing. So now that impacts the rest of the people there. So trying to navigate and be a bit diplomatic. Sometimes you need to confront it. Sometimes you need to kind of just back off and just let them vent a little bit and run and do what they need to do. Sometimes you engage and sometimes you don't. So what sport has taught me is how to navigate that particular little muddle of human relations to a certain extent. You know, so and trying to figure out how to get the best out of, as a coach, how to get the best out of people when they're in that space, and when to send them away and say, listen, go throw the ball against the wall for 15 minutes. And then when you're done and you're feeling better, you can come back. If you're not feeling better, just go home. You know, so it's that kind of figuring out the emotional barometers of people and trying to kind of problem solve that particular aspect of it. And I mean, yeah, and everything else about sport, I mean, punctuality and commitment, you know, that's sometimes very frustrating nowadays, is the fact that it's so easy to find people. It's easy for people to find excuses not to do things because, you know what, I don't have time. But, you know, back in the day when we committed to do something, you did it, come hell or high water. You know, so it's trying to navigate all these type of things. So it taught me a hell of a lot in human relations and how to navigate and kind of discern specific emotional, explosive territories.
And there are lots of emotional territories and explosive situations in netball, but in all codes. And particularly where there are people, there's always going to be an emotional connection. And from a technical perspective, there's always going to be a challenge if you don't agree with the umpire.
If it's only the umpire that you don't agree with, then yes, that's the least of your problems. There's lots of issues normally in team sports and a lot of issues in sports in general. So I think it is, yeah, the emotions are something that you need to tap down on. And sometimes you lose it. Sometimes you just can't. It just explodes, and then you've just had a bad day, because you can't always have a good day. And then, but you know, sometimes, but it's taught me to also just self-evaluate and try and figure, because you don't always know when to engage and have the fight. Do I fight or don't I fight? You know. So, but I mean, sport has taught me to kind of so 70 out of the 100 times I get the fight right.
That's good stats. That's good stats. Mr. Feb, do you have the same kind of stats,
I
Mr.
think
Feb?
so. Hey, I think so.
Craig, are you also a 70 plus man? I'm not talking about your age. I'm talking about stats.
I'm heading that way. Yeah, I concur with Charlotte, and I want to agree with her. It's the thing with road running is that it can be very lonely, but the journey when you're alone out there, whether it be training or whether it be in a race, was my time to put things into perspective. You know, when you're dealing with people, and I deal with people on a daily basis because of my work. I'm in sales, and you don't always get it right. I'll be the first to say that. The running allowed me to put things into perspective as far as headspace goes. You know, and then you come back the next day or the next week and you try again. The one thing that it taught me, and I've had the privilege of speaking to a few groups of younger athletes already, is that it's not so much starting the journey. It's how you persevere and finish the journey. That I find important. You know, so when we start a race or when we start a fight or whatever sporting code you're busy with, it's not about starting that sporting code or that race. It's how you're going to finish it and when you finish it. So yeah, it gives you. It gives you the opportunity to put things into perspective, and what's important and what's not important. But like Charlotte said, also at times it's taught me a lot about relationships or how you handle people's emotions. Yeah. I don't know if I get it 70% of the time right, but yeah, I try and get it right.
I didn't say right. I just said 70 out of the 100. I mean, that's all I said. I never said it's 70% right. You're putting words in my mouth, Craig, but I like it. I like it.
We strive.
So Craig, before we get to Martin, let me ask you this question, Craig, because you've now raised this and ponder on this and maybe add it into your answer, and Nicolette and Charlotte, I'll give you an opportunity as well. You've touched on something in terms. Often the theory that your journey is to get to the start line, and the hardest part of any activity is getting to the start line, all the preparation, all the cost, and when you saying the other way around. Once you're at the start line, then the work starts, because then you got to push to the finish. Why would which one in your head would you?
I think there's a balance. What a lot of people don't realize is obviously the sacrifices we make to get to the start line, and I'll agree with you there. But I just want to use Comrades of Two Oceans now as an example. The race on the day is half the work. It's those hours that you've put in, or months that you've put in to get to the start line. But you want to finish that journey, come hell or high water, when you do start. And what the mental battles you go through is saying, listen, I've sacrificed so much to get here. If my body allows me and my mind allows me, more than likely your mind will allow you, I'm going to get to the finish line. Because at the end of the day, I want to put that medal around my neck and say, I've completed the task that I had. So hear me when I say that it's, I'm not saying one is more important than the other. It's a kind of balance in that a lot does take you to get to the start line, or to represent your country at the highest level. But when you're there and that whistle blows or the gun goes off, you want to complete the task at hand to the best of your ability.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Because I mean,
absolutely.
I also
Yep.
Sorry.
Charlotte, go.
Yeah, so I
You
I
can
would
go,
also
Charlotte.
not say that the prep. I'm talking, yeah. So I'm saying I don't think the prep is more important than actually the event, and I'm not saying the event is more important than I think it's a 50-50. You need to put in all the effort that you can, as much as possible. Do the sacrifices that you can, but when you're in it, when you're at the starting line, it is literally number one. It is the endurance part. It's trying to maintain and be consistent in your performance. But the ultimate goal is to finish and to finish well.
Yeah.
It's useless. I mean, yeah, but also once you've finished and you look back on the finish, then you must be able to say, you know what, my preparation was sufficient for what I needed to do. And if it wasn't sufficient, okay, fine. Looking back and saying, okay, fine, I maybe should have done this better, and then I can use some of that lessons and I can prepare for the next one. So it's in sport is always just building on the previous event. Even if you were successful in netball, if you've won the match, not everything was 100. It's great and euphoric. You've won the match, but not everything worked 100%. We lucky. I've got 4 quarters to try and figure out how I'm going to do this, but every quarter is very different.
Yeah.
And because there's a different team on the court, it differs. And I think on a road running like a comrades, it's a fight between yourself. I mean, you fighting yourself to try and make sure that you get there.
Definitely.
And in a team sport, you're fighting yourself, but you're also fighting with other people, and you need to pray and hope that we all got the same goal. So road running, I would never do the comrades for that specific reason. Me, I will win. I will stop.
Definitely. So the person here with the most recent medal out of the 5 is Martin. Okay, Martin won a medal last week. So Martin,
sure.
Martin, jy hoef nie blaas nie, is right. Ons gaan nou kom.
Congrats, bro.
So Martin, based on what those two have just said, let me ask you this question then. Ne?
Yeah.
Were you more nervous at the start, or were you more nervous at the finish when you realized you're going to get the podium?
No, definitely more nervous at the start. Definitely more nervous at the start. It's always a daunting thing because you know that it all still lies ahead. And in my particular case, having gone to a race which was preferably to be in the dry, and then suddenly it's the wet season in Lesotho, it changes the ball game a little bit. So yeah, it was definitely a challenge, but the medal that I received was a finisher's medal after having competed 3 years ago, and I didn't finish.
Unfinished business.
Like Charlotte said, it's unfinished business. So I had to go back, and the conditions were worse than before, but it was my determination to actually see it through. And yeah, many times, you have to have the end goal in mind as you participate, and say that you've got to hang in there, you've got to make good decisions while you're out there on the course. You've got to eat, you've got to drink, and you've got to not expend all your energy because it happens over 3 days. And I was fortunate enough to finish, and I'm very glad to say that I've achieved that goal now.
Whoop, whoop.
Well done. Well done.
And definitely well done. It's not an easy event. Let's put it that way. I mean, from people don't know how grueling it is to be on the back of a motorbike for at least 4 or 5 hours going up and down a mountain. On a mountain bike, it's tough. On a motorbike, it's tougher. Would you agree, Martin?
No, definitely. Having cycled for 30 years now, there's a great comparison between the two, but there is also a great difference between the two. I've done a Cape Epic, and I understand the nuances of a 7.5, 8 hour day on a bicycle for 8 days. But let me tell you, go and try 7 or 8 hours on a motorcycle, that weighs 120 kilograms, and you've got all that kit on, and you literally are going up and down mountain faces and rocky paths. It's a challenge, but you know what? It's something that you train for and something that you prepare for, and then you've got a fast bait when you're there.
Yeah.
You've got to hang in, and you've got to do what you got to do.
So
there's no turning back. There's no chickening out. You've got to go, and that's what we did.
Absolutely, as Rene says, positive intent with passion equals positive outcome. And she also says discipline, dedication, and determination is part of the core, is part of the secrets to success. Would you say that sport has taught you those kinds of things, Martin, over the 50 years that you've been involved in sport?
It's quite interesting. I'll share with you two things that sport has taught me. Funnily enough, when I started motorcycle racing at an early age, it teaches you how to take risks, because sometimes you just have to go for it, and you just really have to open that throttle and take that jump, and it's a risk that you take.
Yeah.
And funny, when I started my own business many years later, the interesting thing that I found was that you actually start calculating the risks that you take, because you have to do that. There's a certain amount of uncertainty that's out there in the world.
Yeah.
And when you start a new venture, it doesn't make a difference what it is. There's going to be a certain amount of risk that you have to take, but you can calculate a lot of it. And sport has really taught me to do that. And to take courage in the 70% of Charlotte, or the 70 out of 100, I'll take that. But it teaches you how to make those decisions. That's how it works. And having had to spend so much time on a bicycle seat, and I did enjoy it, and I still do. I don't ride quite as much as I did in the past, but when you leave here from the southern suburbs of Cape Town and you go towards Cape Point, and you've got a headwind, it's tough and it's hard and it's unpleasant. But you learn to hang in there. Tough times don't last. Tough people do, because at some stage wind is going to turn, and you can have the wind at your back, and hopefully it's on your way home. And those are little life lessons, but I've seen it in my sons. I've taken them along, and what is great to see is to see somebody else embracing the principle, and that's what it's about for me. It's for people to actually learn a lesson through their experience, out in the world, out in the outdoors, doing some physical activity and coming back and realizing something new about themselves. And that for me is the beautiful thing about sport, is the ability to grow as an individual. And that is just stunning.
Okay.
Absolutely, Martin. Which leads right into Nicolette, because Nicolette's sport is often seen as a physical activity, where I view it as a predominantly mental activity with a little bit of physicality. Nicolette, have I got it wrong, or do people have it wrong?
I think it's got a bit of both in, but it's definitely more mental. You're constantly fighting with yourself, thinking, are you doing it now right? Is this the best you can do? Did I do the right move? Remember when we fight the seniors, they fight only for 3 minutes. No breaks in between. When I fought, it's 2 minutes. So you don't have a lot of time to assess the opponent. it's very fast thinking, and you need to sort of act very quickly. You don't have that 40, 45, 30 minutes on a side type of thing. So that's the main difference. I think you definitely it's more mentally. There's obviously a lot of physical in as well. But I think what Renee said earlier on, I've learned that from karate is that, you know, it teaches you to focus, it teaches you to think, have discipline, and all of the above that she mentioned. But what karate I think taught me most is to juggle all my different hats. I mean, at one point I was the secretary of Cape Town Karate. I was a student myself. I just started a business where I must teach children. Then I must teach little ones and I must teach adults. So
Yeah.
there's the distinguish between those two. Then I must come home and then I must remember I must still do my work. And I mean, like you all guys, like you all know as well, sport, it's basically 24/7. I mean, if it's not a mom phoning you, it's the school teacher or the child, or you need to do your admin, or you need to practice yourself, or you need to go to a meeting. It just doesn't stop. It's not like work where I can say, okay, I work from 8 to 5. Sport is completely different. And it definitely helped
Yeah.
me to manage my own life and then to juggle other people's life. Because I mean, now you can sort of start teaching the kids. You remember you must do this, and then you must go and study, and you must do this. So it's sort of something that you can show other people. You know, see if I could do it, you could also do it. No excuses. And then it's the mental combination with the physical part where you still need to get your rest as well, but then hopefully you'll stop thinking what you had to do or what you just forgot to do the same day.
Good luck with that.
So yeah. I mean, I sometimes wake up during the night and I'm just thinking, oh, I forgot to send that to this mother or this to that mother. So it's sort of definitely a non-stop thing for me. But I mean, during COVID, for instance, when none of this was going on, I was like, okay, what must I do? I didn't know what to do. I was so, you can't go and do something. You're stuck in this house. And that was the weirdest part for me, is to just not do something. I don't know how people can't do sport or how they can't be involved in communities. I just don't know. What do they do? For me, this is the way of my life. I can't see myself doing anything else.
It's the 5 years thing.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what I feel. It taught me a lot of things, and then, like you also said, Charlotte, learning how to deal with different people. I mean, that was extremely difficult for me in the beginning when I was on the executive, because you deal with students, parents, dojo managers, the rest of the executive, then the provincial guys, and then the national guys, and everyone thinks differently about things. And then you need to sort of keep calm and stay calm. That was very difficult sometimes. And then manage all these issues all together, plus your personal life and everything else that's going with that. So, yeah, I think from where I started to where I'm now, I've grown quite a bit. And if it wasn't for karate, I never would have been here in this position. So I'm glad I've started doing it. Yeah.
Definitely, and I mean, it's not Albert having conversation with us. It's Adele, according to the post. So Adele says she's still very scared of you, Nicolette. And when you're talking about moms, you're definitely talking about her.
Well, yes. I mean, there's quite a few. I mean, remember when you touch a child, you touch that mother. Or when you do something wrong. I mean, you must remember. I mean, obviously in all the different sporting codes, the parents spend a lot of money on their children to get them where they are. I mean, it doesn't matter what sport it is. If it's not buying a bicycle, it's buying karate, fighting equipment, or gis or things. So there's always money involved. And let's face it, not everyone has the money. So as soon as you start touching their child, you say you can't go here, or you must buy another this, or you must do this, or another this. Like me in a dojo, ask them for another fee because they need to attend this. You start touching the mother, and then it's just all the hassle starts all over again, and you need to find ways to solve those problems. So yeah, I think a lot of people are scared of me. I've heard that.
But
I really don't know why.
But that's a good thing. It's a good thing.
I think so.
as a fighter, as a fighter, Nicolette, not as a person, not as a person. Stop. As a fighter, not as a person.
Okay, well, some people do know me as Anaconda, so if I put them in a jiu-jitsu joke, they struggle to get out. So I think maybe that's the reason. I don't know. Yeah.
So in summary, sport has affected each of you to be and become the individual that you are. And you're right, Nicolette, in every aspect of what we do, we influence and we work with people on different levels. And it's about what Martin said, it's about what Craig said, even what Charlotte said. It's about the relationship that makes the activity work. And unless we build that relationship, it's not gonna get there. So moving on the relationship, my next question to each of you would be, and I'll start with Martin and then go Nicolette, Charlotte, and then Craig. The relationship in sport currently, to a large degree, is fizzling out in terms of growth. Less so in netball to a degree. Nicolette, you can talk and tell me from a karate perspective, but from a general perspective, COVID has kind of shifted people because of what you said, Nicolette. In COVID, we didn't do sport, so a lot of people have lost that impetus in sport. School sport has decreased. So how do we? You've all been in sport. We've all been in sport now. Each of us for 25 years, okay, and we've all come through the ranks. What kept you interested in sport back then that we are not doing right now, that we have so many people not interested in sport? Martin.
Yeah, Elton, that's a
So
difficult
how do
one.
we get people, how do we get the youth to be involved in sport?
Yeah, it really is a challenge. To a greater extent, COVID has stunted a lot of activity, a lot of movement, and it's actually kind of, made people scared to be. And even on the weekend, I had some guys that didn't want to physically greet me and touch me because of COVID still. So that is a new barrier that we
Sure.
have to overcome. We have to look at the safety of that kind of thing, I guess. But I think being sports people, we are fit and we are healthy, and we know that participation is necessary. We know that participation liberates you from all sorts of negativity and depression and
Yeah.
sort of being alone. So, I don't think we need to do anything different other than encourage people, just to get involved again, and to show them that, what we've had before we can have again, but it just means that we have to pick it up and run with it again. I know that in all sports there are difficulties and there are barriers to overcome, but we've had to come over barriers in all our lives already. And this is another barrier. And we need to be the examples for people to follow. And in being an example, people will start getting active again. So I say we continue what we do, and encourage people to be involved.
Definitely, I agree with you, Martin. My only added to that is that the age of volunteerism has decreased, and there are less and less, fewer and fewer people like the Adels of the world, like the Renes, like lots of other people who have, because they don't have the time and they don't have the money anymore. When we oom Pietie het vir jou gevat op 'n veld en 'n rugbybal gegooi en sê kom my seun, and he had the time and he had the capacity and the money to do that. not physical money, but time. Now, everything we do is about time and money. I don't have the time because it's going to cost me money to travel to a meeting. How do we change that kind of mentality? Because that's one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't disagree. You know, times are getting tougher. But I still think, you know, having the role models out there to be out there, you know, you don't have the latest, you don't need the latest equipment to participate. It's hard to not have money for the latest equipment, like Nicolette said. You know, and we do know to put on an event or stuff like that costs money. But you know, I believe to encourage that participation in whatever way possible. And yeah, I think maybe the older guys, people like us, are the people that know how to start a fire. So, you know, it starts with a spark. So be a spark. You know, I don't know.
100%.
I say we keep going. You just keep going.
Definitely.
You know,
Yeah,
you can start
100%.
a forest fire with a spark. So, you know, I'm saying wherever you are, make sparks. That's it. You know, somewhere somebody else is going to pick it up and they're going to start it.
Gooi het kwagga, soos hulle sê, né, Martin? Yep.
Spark plug included.
Nicolette, from your perspective,
I think I think with
Nicolette,
online
from your
streaming,
perspective,
yeah, no, I think with online streaming and Zoom and, you know, having, you know, internet and things, a lot of people got so used to streaming nowadays that they don't need to go out of the house anymore. They can do online classes or online anything. And then I mean, I've got a friend that does virtual cycling. So a lot of people are still stuck in that. It's obviously convenient because you can quickly switch on the software and you can jump on your bicycle or treadmill or whatever you have and you can quickly do it. But people are a bit more afraid to get out of the house. And what we are trying to do is trying to make you know, things fun for them. So I mean, last year we had like a, you know, like a karate at the beach day type of thing, just to get them out a bit. When it's load shedding, we park the cars in a circle. They do, you know, load shedding in the middle with all the car lights on type of thing, just to get them going and moving. And I must say, it's a lot better. We obviously had a huge issue with the face masks when the you know, when they said no, it's no, you don't need to wear the mask anymore. The kids refused to take those masks off because they were hiding behind those masks. They didn't need to show emotions, or they could hide their emotions behind the masks, and that was a huge thing. Eventually, I said to him, "I'm going to rip it off and throw it in the bin, or you're going to do it, but you're not coming in this dojo anymore with a mask." And suddenly, you could see their faces, and they had to like. Now they must smile if you talk to them, or they must give a reaction. You know, you don't only see that top part. And that took us quite a few weeks, if it wasn't months, to get that right. They felt somehow comfortable with the mask around their chin. So that was something that was sort of difficult. But I think now, a few months in, everyone is sort of back to normal. We had our first competition in July where we physically could touch fighting. And I think that gave everyone a little step and the hope that, you know, it's okay to touch now. Obviously, we still have our sanitizers and things hanging around in the dojo and all over at competitions. So there's definitely been an improvement. And I've heard that from next year there'll be more competitions. There's a lot more things going on. The municipalities are opening up more their halls. So I think it will improve. It's just maybe not going to be as fast as we are all hoping for. We went to Italy now for our Karate World Champs. And obviously, you know, there's the protocols and things we still had to follow regarding COVID. But in general, it all went well, and I think everyone was happy that they could just get out of the country, go somewhere, and enjoy the sport. So yeah, I think it will be better from next year on, and I'm just glad it's, well, hopefully done for now, that it won't happen again, or that we all sort of will have everything that we did, in place, and we can continue then, either way, being at home or being in the dojo type of setup. Yeah, so that's what I think.
Yeah, and I mean, there are still lots of people, like you say, who, irrespective of where they are. I in the classroom that I taught today, 4 out of the 15 students had masks on for the entire class. So we still need to be cognizant of those kinds of things. But how do we
Yes.
how do we make it, still try and make it inclusive? Is the biggest challenge for people in general space.
Yeah. I think, I think that's a challenge, because you need to respect those people that still want to wear their masks. But maybe ask them why. It's very difficult. It's I think what COVID did to us in a negative way was it people forget to sort of communicate. They weren't used to having face-to-face relationships. They weren't used to picking up, talking to people. And I find it as a struggle that some people started stuttering because they can't talk to people face-to-face. It was easier doing online or WhatsApp or, emails. But from what I've seen, it's better in our field.
Yeah.
I think I don't know, in other sport codes, but yeah, definitely on our side, it's improving. There's been improvement.
Great. That's good to hear. From your perspective, what's the youth and masks and COVID and all of those kinds of things? How's that happening and playing out?
Over to me.
Is it Charlotte or me, Elton?
Yes. Charlotte. No, Charlotte.
Oh.
And then I'll come to you, Craig.
Well, yeah, COVID didn't do us any favors. What COVID has done. Elton, you're buffering a little bit, so we can't always hear what you say.
Oh.
Like now, so you just buffered. You were just like hanging there. So bear with us when we miss what you're saying.
Okay, sorry.
So I will speak.
Not working well for me.
So COVID hasn't done us any favors in the sporting community, that's for certain. From a netball perspective, I think there's definitely a hunger to be outdoors, to play the sport again, and get out there and do our things. But what it has done is it's also exposed a number of things. It's exposed some of the unhealthy activities that sometimes happen within sport, from an administrative perspective. So it has opened up the doors of things, and people's motivations has been affected. People that have been, you get to a point where, it's same old, as long as I can keep on working with the kids and I can keep on doing the thing and I can really make the sport grow, I'll continue. What COVID has done is COVID has stopped you. So now your tolerance levels are a bit low. So now things that 2 years ago didn't bother you, or you could work past it because the rest of the interactions were great, suddenly is a big bone of contention. Because like you guys have also said, is that getting people back on the sporting field is where the drive is now. So all these other people that are currently there are not necessarily those kids that is coming off the streets onto the sporting field, where your passion is lying, where your drive was. So now you've got to actually deal with some of the issues that you've always just overlooked. And that has demotivated a number of very enthusiastic or passionate sports people, especially in your team sport component. And it's also allowed people that is there for the wrong reasons to kind of have their moment to shine, and push some agendas through that has been detrimental to some of the good people deciding, you know what, I don't need it. And what COVID has taught us is that there's something besides sport. You know, you can now do something else. You can now go stream, go live stream, go freaking play, do virtual biking or virtual races and not have to interact with people because it's just too much drama. That's the one thing that COVID has taught us. And it's sad, and it's trying to get your diligent, motivated, passionate sports people back. That's where the struggle is. Getting new people on is not a problem. Getting those kids back on the netball court is not the problem. Is getting the ones that is now having to face and deal with some of the issues that they've left, that they've never addressed. That's where the biggest challenge is. And then I think people don't necessarily see that all the times. Because I mean, having a bunch of people in the same space all the time, obviously there's going to be some conflict. There's going to be certain things, but like people are, we compromise. Okay, fine. You can continue and reign supreme in that thing as long as you leave me alone while I coach the players, or while I go into the township or go into wherever and impact that person's life, because it doesn't bother me and you don't bother, and so I don't really care what you're doing, you know. So we kind of working in silos, and suddenly after COVID, certain silos have kind of fallen apart. So now people are encroaching on other spaces, and I think at some point in time we're going to have to sit down and have this difficult conversation, because we need to go relook at why are we doing what we're doing, or why have we been doing what we've been doing, and address some of the elephants that are in the room. And it's not going to be easy. I think from a netball perspective, the Netball World Cup is also adding additional pressure to get things up and about and going and whatever, you know, because for 2 years we couldn't really get people behind and involved and whatever. So now you've got pressure because it's nearly 100 days. It's about 120 days till the Netball World Cup, which is in Cape Town next year, 28th July till the 6th of August. How many people in Cape Town know this? So there's a big challenge that awaits the netball community in Cape Town and in South Africa at large, is to trying to get the word out there and making sure that everybody knows it. And that's where so sport in general has got some challenges, and I think, like you guys said, but sitting back and just hoping that it's gonna resolve itself is not quite, because I mean, we're passionate. But the other passionate people that we could sometimes just by us being present, we could drag some people along, because there was always, they were okay because there were people that were pushing them. They've suddenly they don't have to. It's one of those, I don't have to do this anymore. And that is, I think, maybe the sad part of it for me, is that we're losing really, really good people because we are allowing destructive personalities within our sports. People that have not done a lot for the development of the sport, but is now claiming it now that the sport is at a point where it is actually really doing well. And from that perspective, you know, if that's where leadership will probably have to come in and be more impactful in that regard. Don't know what the solution to that would be, but it's definitely not going to be easy.
And linked to that would be all the people that we've lost as a result of COVID, where the brain drain is now gone. All that institutional knowledge is now gone. So we're having to get people to educate them and upskill them to be able to fill those gaps, which is a significant challenge.
Exactly. And we've lost some really good people.
Craig, from your perspective, Craig?
Yeah, I think...
Craig, from your perspective, how do you see the youth and the current...
I still believe that we need to be role models, and each one of us has been involved in our various disciplines of sport, because I think we are passionate the joy and the satisfaction it's given us over the years, and that's why we're still involved. And I want to concur with Martin said, light a spark around you. The reason why we do what we do is because, and I'm going to use a Professor Noak's term that I learned about a long time ago, the endomorphins, is die lekker gevoel. It gives you that sense of feel good that you've achieved, but you've also made someone else feel good about it. And so to touch on the COVID scenario, COVID, the one bad thing that it did do, it kept people indoors. And how we do it is the challenge, but we've got to get young people outdoors again. I mean, the events are slowly coming back onto the timetables in all disciplines that we're allowed to go out there and take part in whatever discipline we enjoy. And it's to make the younger generation feel that what they do is not only for a medal, it has physical and mental benefits in the long run. So go and run, go and play on a court, go and interact and fight, go and ride a bike or a motorbike, go to the athletics track, but go and enjoy it. You know, it's not only about winning or losing, it's enjoying the physical activity out there, and lighting a spark around you, so to say. And we're still involved because we were passionate. The satisfaction that the discipline gave each one of us, and that's why we're still involved to various degree with the sporting codes that we are involved with.
Mm-hmm.
Agree. And if I look at what Adele says, make it fun is the key to attract more kids to sport. But as adults, we have this win at all cost attitude, and putting the kids under so much pressure to perform, it takes the fun out of the sport. And that's often the challenge, is because the parents want to live their dreams and their aspirations through their children's lives, because they never got school colors or Western Province colors or SA colors, whatever you want to call it, or the different levels. So now they want to be able, and also bragging rights, to say my child is an SA kickboxer, you know. It's all of those kinds of dynamics that play into the hands of sport and administration. So in closing, guys, because I'm cognizant that some of us are not so young, you know, I won't mention any names. Someone less than 50, you know, Martin. So he's not so young anymore. I'm not mentioning any names.
No, but we come with the title master, you know, or grandmaster. So we carry titles with age.
Okay, no. At least you keep believing that, my friend. You keep believing that. So in closing, I'm going to ask each of you to take 2 minutes max and tell everybody, why are you still involved in sport and why they should be involved in sport, as a roundup of everything that sport has impacted and taught you over your career in sport and life, and why you would recommend it to anybody. Let's start with Charlotte. We'll go Craig, Martin, and then we'll end with Nicolette.
Craig hasn't started yet. Craig has never started. Can't Craig start?
Craig.
Craig must start.
No. Craig will start.
Okay,
Craig will start. No worries, Charlotte. No worries.
Thank you,
We
Craig.
go the other way because you're load shedding.
Picking on me.
Okay. I understand you've been slow. But
I just think it gives you wonderful perspectives. It allows you to meet people from various walks of life that possibly, if you were not involved in a sport code, you would never have met. I've formed bonds of friendships that have lasted me so far a lifetime, and it's allowed me to achieve goals that I never thought possible. I always say to guys that are younger than me, the opportunity to dream is good, but to achieve is even better. So those dreams can be achieved, but it costs you sacrifice. It just doesn't come overnight. You know, I never in my wildest, and I use the example, I never in my wildest dreams thought that when I started running, I'd wear Springbok colors one day. And I can, down the line, as my kids get older, I can show them that dad represented his country once in his lifetime, whether it's professional or whether it's amateur. It's an accolade that you don't always have the privilege of doing. And I want to encourage parents to encourage their kids. Don't force them, but encourage them to participate in something that they enjoy doing. And they can achieve, but it's going to cost them sacrifice to achieve. It doesn't come overnight. And so that's why I'm still involved in the sport, because I'm giving back what the sport has given me over the years, and I'm doing now what the sport has given me over the last 30 years or so. Yeah, it becomes part of your lifestyle, and it will never leave you to whichever degree you still are involved in the sport, but it becomes part of your lifestyle.
Definitely. Charlotte, are you ready now? Must I go to Martin?
Yes. No, it's fine. I mean, sport has taught. I think it's an important developmental tool. Sport has taught me. Sport has definitely helped me in obtaining my PhD. It has taught me that nothing is what it seems to a certain extent. It's given me a sense of work ethos. You know, there's certain things that you just do because you're in sport. You try to be punctual. You try to make, you know, your word means something. If you've committed, you're in it. You know, so there's certain life lessons that chances are I might have learned in other places, but I mean, sport has just cemented it. What sport is also, it's taken me places like Craig and Martin have said. It's taken me to countries and places that I would never have been able to afford to go. You know, I've been to the New Zealand, I've been to England, I've been a multitude of places, and that was through sport. But literally just going from here to Durban for a weekend, it changes your perspective. And people do not understand the value of that change in perspective and change in circumstance. And that's why I've always been passionate to get a kid from the township or get a kid from one of our communities and say, you know what, go on this tour, go stay in a hotel, go experience life on a different plane, because we've got, South Africa's got these most disparaging within socioeconomic statuses, but showing somebody just a glimpse of what is out there is amazing. It's not just something that you see on TV. It's not just something that you see on the internet. If you experience that changes you on a fundamental level that people do not understand. And then I think that encouragement, it motivates you on a different level. In our communities, there's, you know, kids can't go to school because of gunshots that's going out. Taking him out of that environment for a week, where they can see that this is not the norm. Actually, you don't have to continuously worry about having to lie on the ground or anything like that. You can actually go and perform, and it kind of motivates people on a different level, and you don't fall back into the patterns of what was before. You know, and that's the only way we'll be able to uplift our communities and get our communities out of this rut of generational type curses. And that might be one of the reasons why I'm still involved in sport. And the value of sport and the value of education, I cannot stress enough, because sport teaches you life lessons that might take you years to learn. And sport is an absolute must. TV games, and that there could be a place for that, but having that kid go out and be on a sporting field, be it interacting with other people on a different level, they learn through peer learning much better than anywhere else. That's just my personal opinion.
Definitely. Thank you, Charlotte. Nicolette, from your perspective?
I definitely agree with what Charlotte said now. I mean, it's a must. Sport must be part of your lifestyle. It needs to be part of it. What we are also doing, and it seems to work, it works very well, is to get the family into the dojo, because a lot of the time nowadays, families don't spend time together. They don't do anything together. So we've got a few families that mother, father, child is doing karate, or father, son is doing karate. And that's a nice bonding tool as well. In any sport, I mean, if you can get the child and say, Dad, but you're not too old, or just try and cycle, or try and do this, or whatever. It's a nice bonding tool as well. And you can, out of that, give back to the household, give back to the community. It's part of education. It's like you all said, it's such a wonderful tool. I mean, if I just take now the kids in my dojo, 7 out of them has never been overseas, and they've all been overseas now, and that was just because of karate. So it definitely takes you places all over. You meet people, you become friends with people. It's just something that's needs to be a necessity, and it needs to be a must. In schools, I mean, schools should encourage it more, and not only their own sports that they've got in their schools. They should encourage a child, okay, fine, if you don't want to do karate or netball or hockey, which is school sports, go and do something else. But you must do something else, and come and bring me proof that you're doing cycling or karate or darts or whatever. And I think they should get brownie points for that. They should get points if they do a sport, because it's definitely part of the education. Yeah, so that's what I would say. People need to start doing stuff, and the more active everyone will get, I think the guys that are inactive will see what's going on. Everyone is active. I also need to get active, and that's how we will spark the little fire if everyone gets active and gets out of their houses. Yeah. Okay.
Definitely. The fire starter. Tell us,
Always.
Tell us why people should should start the fires more.
Yeah, Elton. I think the physical and mental benefits of activity is just so invaluable for people. Just the ability to get out and to interact, and for those of us that are still participating in in whatever sport it is that you're involved in, every time you go out there, you learn something new, about yourself, about a technique, and I'm still involved. It keeps me young, it keeps me out of trouble, just like it does for the young people. Yeah, you also have the ability to pass on what you have learned to the youngsters around you. They look up to you, and it's an opportunity to interact and to grow with them and to teach them. So the benefits actually outweighs the negatives. I believe that everybody should be involved in some kind of physical activity as far as it's possible, just because it's beneficial. Even if it's, the doctor says, it's good for your circulation. So then let's go do it.
Definitely. And you circulate all over the world as it is, based on what all of you are saying.
True.
So in closing, I'm going to use some of the comments that's made in the chat, and wrap up with some of the. I've made 25 different comments on a sheet of paper, and I'm not going to get through all of them. And I'm going to start by saying, to use Adele's words, sport is the vehicle to create better societies. Okay, because of all the benefits, all the benefits that we've outlaid and discussed tonight about how sport has changed people, how it's changed your lives, not people. Let's bring it home. How sport has changed our lives. Just the five of us. It's definitely a vehicle to change, and it's definitely a vehicle to change society. Number one. Number two, it helps us to deal with people and helps us to deal with that is thrown at us at different levels at different times, because it helps us, as all of you said, problem solving, teaches us to be punctual, teaches us to be committed, gives us perseverance. It helps our mental game. It gives us determination. But over and above that, it allows us to inspire and us be an inspiration to other people and be the shining light to the world, to say that sport has the power to change. The most famous quote by Nelson Mandela, used by all sports people. Okay, and in closing, then, once we can use that, we then become, in Martin's words, the spark.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I want to take this opportunity to thank those who have participated, both in the chat and those who have been watching. And for those who are still going to watch this, I know that on a normal week, this gets probably about 1,500 to 3,000 views. So this message that we are sharing will be spread multiple times over. And for every one person, they usually tell 11 other people. That's the stats. Craig and Martin as salespeople will concur with that. So to the four of you, thank you for your time. Thank you to everybody else that's participated. And next week, Wednesday, 8 o'clock, we do exactly the same thing. And we have a conversation about the positive aspects of sport and how it's changed. So I thank you for your time, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
And continue doing the
Thank
good work you do in
Thanks for
sport.
having
Thanks for
us.
having me.
Cheers.
Thanks
Cheers.
for having us on
Thank you
that.
for having us.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.
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 Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers.